If you're thinking about like, should I start a business or should I do this? Like the biggest thing, no matter what, even if you're not starting a business, like know what you want. I mean, that's like such it seems like an easy thing. There's no explanation other than God wanting this to happen, you know? You can start at a point, but never stop like trying to get better, you know, at the same time. And by being a student of the game, like I still follow every other company like ours, smaller, bigger, it doesn't really matter to be like, what are you doing that we're not doing?
That's
real.
But we don't work for grace, but from grace. We don't work for love, but because God loves us.
Yeah. The most important point there is like, you cannot run a good enough business to be accepted by Christ, right?
Yeah.
You can't. It doesn't matter if you're a nonprofit that's giving every penny away.
Be seen, be heard. Radiance Videography Podcast.
What's up, you guys? This is Jason Dames with Radiance Videography. We're doing a little bit different podcast today, but we've got my man Dylan, and then we got a special guest, John Tock. He owns Single Wave Technologies, and we're going to be interviewing him today. I'm so excited about this. I know I say I'm so excited every podcast, but this is going to be a good one. It'll be really fun. John Tock has had quite a bit of success in the IT industry, and we can't wait to hear a little bit more about that. So thank you for joining us, John.
Man. Glad to be here.
Thanks for co-hosting, Dylan.
Always, man. Always. Blessed to be here.
It's going to be a lot of fun. So we really wanted to, typically we just start off with, just learn a little bit more about John Tock. Yeah. Who is he? Like, where did he come from?
Who is he? Yeah.
And tell us a little bit of your backstory, how you, before, start your own business. Anything that's really important to like your journey getting up to where you are, starting your own business, and then maybe we can get into some specifics of things that you guys do to help people.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think like most eventual entrepreneurs, I got into college having no idea what I wanted to do, right? So I got into college as a business major for like a semester, and then undeclared for most of college, and then eventually was a criminal justice major. I was going to be a cop. That was my thing. And really it was just like, it seemed super easy. There were no 8 o'clock classes for criminal justice. So I'm like, that sounds great. That's a good move. And then eventually I started. So at the time I was selling furniture at weekends only. So I was flipping furniture on the weekends, and I loved that job. Actually, it was great for college because I was working on the weekends, staying out of trouble, and selling furniture. So learning sales, learning how to talk with people, learning like how to be outgoing, all of that stuff. And and then eventually they needed IT help at weekends only. And so they were like, hey, you always help with IT stuff around here. Would you want to do during the week or like help with some IT stuff for the company? And I was like, sure.
Yeah, that probably helped with your, like you said, people skills. I mean, most IT people aren't really like people.
People, yeah, for sure. And I didn't necessarily, I was never looking to get into IT. It was just something I was always kind of good at. And I was like I was the young kid, right? So like I was working on the weekends with 50 years old, and I was 18. And they were like, hey, how's this thing work? And so I was always kind of the de facto guy anyways. And so got into that, but always enjoyed that kind of stuff. Like always kind of understood it, but got into IT there and basically became kind of the network administrator, moved full-time out of sales into IT at weekends only. And then I decided I'm going to get my master's in cybersecurity. Eventually, at the time, I was like, oh, I'm going to be in the FBI because I had a criminal justice degree. I was getting into cybersecurity. I thought that's what I wanted to do. I still had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. I still don't today, but I got into that. So from there, I had a professor who is now the co-founder of Single Wave, actually, Ben Auden, was my professor at Maryville. And he said, hey, there's this really high-speed company called SpearTip. We do cyber counterintelligence. I was like, dude, forget the FBI. This is awesome. Sounds cool. And I show up, and there's 4 people. We had pink walls and like the ugliest carpet you've ever seen. And I literally texted my boss, and I was like, hey, I might need to come back. This is not what I signed up for at all. But yeah, we built SpearTip. I was the 4th person. We built it to 75, almost 80 people. And eventually it sold to Zurich Insurance, one of the largest insurance carriers in the world. And really, they do all of the cybersecurity for like people that are getting cyber insurance for assessments and things like that, requirements that they have to do. And so, I was there through all of that. So I stuck it out, and it ended up being a really cool company. We did some amazing stuff. We did a lot of instant response work. So if someone got hit with like ransomware or they got hit with an email scam, we would come in and explain like what happened, how they can make sure it doesn't happen in the future, all of that good stuff. So again, very consulting, sales focused, working with people at like the worst time in their business because they thought like my business is toast. I mean, we're not going to come back from that. And at the same time, we worked with a lot of managed service providers that had no idea how to do security. That's usually how their client kind of got in that situation. So myself and my boss, Ben, at the time, we said, hey, let's branch off and start our own IT managed service provider. And so we did that. We branched off and we got going. And that was a little over 3 years ago. Since then, we've added a lot of other capabilities and stuff that we do, and it's just kind of blown up from there. But yeah, in a way, we kind of got to run a startup already on someone else's money with someone else's risk, made a lot of mistakes.
That's
and,
dope.
Kind of flip that around and say, like, what did we do wrong? And then refresh it into single wave. So
That's
yeah.
beautiful, man.
That is a good story, man. I mean, I know IT is part of, every large business, and there's a lot to that I have no idea, that just goes over my head. But, so you're at a place, you started your own business. On this channel, I really want to be able to highlight business owners and really, pick their brain and figure out things that they have learned through business, and things that, can bring value to people that are watching.
Yeah.
What are some key, big things? We all know each other from church and stuff like that. And I know you've came in and done some leadership talks and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure.
What are some of the things maybe leading up to owning the business and going into the business that like you've learned, that maybe a few points that you'd say you could really take away and be like, man, if you could take these and apply it.
I always tell people, like, if you're thinking, maybe I'll take it kind of that way. If you're thinking about, like, should I start a business or should I do this? Like, the biggest thing, no matter what, even if you're not starting a business, like, know what you want. I mean, that's like such it seems like an easy thing, but like, know what you want and why you're getting into it. Because you can, if you say like, oh, it's freedom, I want more time with my kids. Like, you can build a business that you work 2 or 3 hours a week, and like, money's not everything. You don't take every job, you don't take every opportunity because you want more freedom. And that's like the thing that you want. You may say like, no, I want to make a certain amount of money, $250,000, $300K a year, whatever. Great. You can go do that. You can work 60 hours a week, and like, you can put the things and make sure you're in the right industries and the right thing. Like, but I think so many people, even entrepreneurs that seem like very driven, like known people, have no freaking clue what they want, like, out of life. They don't know what's important to them. And so I wish it took me actually even a great business mentor to dive into that. Because like, we were lucky, we had success, things were going well. Like, at the point, eventually you're like, I don't know how I'm going to eat this month, but like, you figured that out. And luckily we got through all that. But like, we had to have a business mentor, and I really worked with him on like, what is important in your life? Where do you want to be? Not just like a few years down the road, but like, what do you want right now? And build the business that you want, and then constantly check in, because the reality is like, capitalism, America, like, always wants you to do more. They always want you to show up more, work more hours, get bigger. Like, taxes are expensive, healthcare is expensive, and you're like, man, if we only made X more, we could cover that cost. And like, there's some truth to that. Like, don't get me wrong, scale makes things easier in a lot of ways. It also adds a lot more dependency. It adds a lot more. I mean, for us, like, we have almost 25 families that are like, lean on single wave to put food on their table, to pay their mortgage, to do all that. Yeah, for sure. But like, know what you want as an owner, and don't be afraid to like push back on that. And as you're getting into it, like, there's a lot of people that just shouldn't own a business, and they feel like they have to because they're like, oh, I want to be successful, I want this, or I want that. And it's like, you can be a number 2 at a really successful business and like still get everything you want out of life. You just haven't spent the time to be like, all right, what is really important to me? What do I, what am I comfortable with from a risk standpoint, whatever it may be. And so I think that's the big thing I would tell people, is like, just spend time on what you want, what's important to you. For me, I break it down into like categories, and these are never perfect, right? But you break it down to like family, church, relationships, friends, work, whatever these categories are, and like constantly evaluating myself on like, what am I giving the most time to? And sometimes work is big, sometimes it's
I was thinking that exact same thing when you were talking, because something that helped me years ago was like, when you were saying know what you want, I think a lot of it comes down to like, what's your priorities, and what you just said, like, list out the priorities. And Dylan and I were kind of talking about that on the last podcast. It's like, it's so much of the time it's just about grind.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I want to be successful. So like my wife knows like I'm in work mode, and I'm like, you call me and I'm probably not going to answer. Like I'm in work mode, and we have those balances, and like we've had to work through those relationship things. But there's also a time like if something's going on with the kids that I don't want to miss, like I'm not going to miss it. There's nothing in the world that's going to keep me, no matter what deal's going on, like that I'm going to miss that. And so it's a balance of those priorities, and also I can be super focused on work and forget also the relationship like with your wife of like, oh man, you gotta slow down. And you can have a relationship with your kids without the relationship with your wife, and like that's been as our family grows, like a tough balance to figure out. But it's all about priorities. It's all about what you.
I feel like the
to.
priorities help you know very easily what to say no to and yes to.
Yep.
But I mean, I used to be a personal trainer, and that was one of the key things I realized is like, you know, you set out some goals or plans for people, you revisit, and it'd be like, man, I couldn't do it because I had this. You know, oftentimes they were like middle-aged women. They were, you know, trying to take care of the house. They oftentimes had a full-time job already. Then they had kids they were running to this sport and that sport. Yeah. And, you know, they're nurturers, but at the same token, like, you know, I would say, well, like, look, what's your priorities? Because somewhere like health has to fit in there too, so you can be the best for your kids, right?
That's right.
And so it'd be like we gotta like really figure out your priorities. And a lot of times I think people just, like you said, they don't think through those things and really write them down and know what they are. And
organize them. Yeah.
I don't know if you have any thoughts to that.
Well, one thing I've got is I think you hit on a really strong point of when you started, it was you went under somebody that was already doing it. And like in real estate, we talk about using other people's money, right? Yeah. Like it's such a leverage point that you're alleviating some of that risk. And I think a lot of times with people when they're like, oh, I want to start a business, they go straight to wanting to start that business instead of the foot in the door and you don't know what you don't know. Yeah. And what you said was you were able to learn what you didn't know so that when the opportunity presented itself for you to be able to make that transition, for sure, dude, you had all that knowledge and all that experience. And man, that is, definitely. It's a leg up within a leg up, you know, and that's power.
And your network, I mean, the whole network is net worth thing was like, what does that really mean? But I've come to realize now looking back, like there's some people that took chances on us that you look back and you're like, I wouldn't have really great business choice on your side. Like I don't know that I was, yeah, no kidding. Like you don't, we could have closed at any moment. But they took a chance on us. They took those risks, and like it is till you get to a scale, and I don't think we're like there yet, right? Sure. I don't think as an entrepreneur you ever think like, you're there. Oh, we've made it. We just, whatever. But yeah, they took a chance on us. We've got lucky breaks. I mean, I'd look at like true God times in our business. That's like, you're like, how did this happen? This, client A leaves and client B just happens to come up, or like whatever it may be, where you're like, man, there's no explanation other than God wanting this to happen, And so, yeah, that's been an interesting like piece too of the more time you spend with him, the easier that priority list I think builds of like what's important in your life and what really matters. But at the same point, like know what you want on the business side too. So for us, like we were running really hot as we were growing, and like we were, I wouldn't tell everyone this, but like it was very like paycheck to paycheck business where we had money coming in and we didn't have enough. Like if we didn't have that money coming in, payroll would have been tough to make, and luckily it did at the time. But like now we've said like, hey, it's stress. Like we have some stress by not having 3 to 6 months in payroll. So like we then didn't invest in certain marketing initiatives so that we had some of that build up. And there's stuff like that I think like, again, people don't stop enough to be like, what is stressing me out? What am I worrying about? And then what am I doing to solve it? Like you are the champion of your own, success or accountability or whatever you want to call it. So yeah.
I love that. So number one, start with why. I love that. Simon Sinek, wrote a book that way. I think that's so important. So what's number 2?
Man, have a lot of money. No.
Okay, we're done.
Have a lot of money. Yeah. Easiest way to make $1 million, start with 2, right?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I think become a student of your craft, like whatever it is, like you said. I mean, I've got into a couple other business initiatives with people, and like the way that I approach it differently now than the first time is like I joined the Facebook groups. I talk to people that are already using the service that I'm thinking about like investing money and time into, and so like become an absolute student of how that works and how other people have done it, because like there's not that many businesses that you're rewriting like how it's done. You even look at really like PayPal's a great example. They were not the first like group to ever process automated payments the way that they did. There's a ton of names you'd never hear about that did it first, but they had timing, they had network, they had all of these different things. And like, I think being a student of what's out there and like to some way imitate what already works. You don't have to rewrite. We are not like doing IT services in a way that no one has ever done it, but we have an uber focus on customer service, customer feedback. And like the whole company is built around like red, yellow, green feedback systems internally, externally. And that, I think that makes us different, but like IT services, we're not doing it in a different way than everyone else has ever done it, right? Like, I think we're hiring better people. Like, I can have all these opinions of why I think we're great. Sure. But at the end of the day, like, become a student of whatever you're getting into and truly try to be an expert at that, so that when you are in the room, like, people are like, okay, it's beyond just the acronyms, but like you truly understand how the game works.
Live it. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Which has let us talk, I think, in a lot of spaces that we didn't belong. Yeah. Honestly. Awesome. Boardrooms for private equity groups and like different groups that we're a part of, where we had no place being when we first started. And now that's makes up, 50% of our revenue. And that's awesome. Getting there. Yeah.
And it proves that you belong there. You made it felt out of place.
Yeah.
But it ain't even a fake it till you make it. It's like, no, this opportunity is here because of the work and the knowledge that you built up to that point.
Yes.
And that imposter syndrome, man, is like, it's such especially for an entrepreneur, man, it can be a thief of joy.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's like, no, man, you're here because you're knocking things out where they need to be. So.
Yeah, easy.
Proof is in the pudding, as they say.
Yeah, for sure. I'm a big Gary Vaynerchuk fan, and like he always talks about going to these like huge companies and not having a pitch deck, but just like talking about whatever. And it's a great story, but like eventually, VaynerMedia has great pitch decks. They're one of the best. Like they're good at all that stuff. And so I just look at that as like you can start at a point, but never stop like trying to get better. At the same time. And by being a student of the game, like I still follow every other company like ours, smaller, bigger. It doesn't really matter to be like, what are you doing that we're not doing?
That's real, bro.
Yeah, it's so important.
One of the questions I had as you were talking, you mentioned, there was, as you were growing, you're learning new things, but, I know there's always, people have different skill sets and different things that they're better at. Like, is there different people you brought on along the way to help you out with those weaknesses or areas that you weren't strong in? Or I'm just curious because, I'm still a really young business and trying to figure out, I know the areas that I'm really weak at and my limitations.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, knowing that, I think having the humility to know like you're not good at everything is super important. Like you're not going to make it.
I don't want to be good at everything.
No, and you're not going to make it long if you think like, oh, I can do my own taxes. Like, yeah, you probably can, but like there's still only 40 hours in a week. So what are you not doing to be good at that thing?
That's real.
For us, like I started with another person, which is a great check on like, hey, we're both putting our names on our houses are truly on the line of credit. Like we are putting all of this together. And so we get the luxury. And I would say like, if you have someone else now, there's a lot of stories of that going wrong. So make sure you know the person. We worked together for 8 years before we started together. So like, I know his family, I know his kids.
He was vetted.
Yeah, for sure. We knew each other. So be careful of that. Don't just pick like, oh, your buddy from high school.
No,
usually doesn't work out very well. Yeah. Right. And talked a lot about if you're happy in the early days. We talked a lot about like, is this what we want to do? Because like we both have advanced degrees, we have masters, we have, advanced certifications. Like we could go make the same amount that we make and not run a business on the market. Like that's, and that's something that we've talked a lot about. And so, sorry, I'm kind of tangent to your question, but I think, who you sleep with in business, who you work with, like super important. We made some bad decisions on, I mentioned taxes, just kind of a funny story of just like, we had a tax advisor that was a buddy and he was a nice guy. He was not giving us what we needed. And it ended up costing us, like 15, 20 grand in the long run that we didn't have at the time, And so like who you work with, for me, And for me personally, like, I'm not a detailed guy. I love big picture. I love vision. Yeah, I'm not. You put me in QuickBooks, and I'm like, I don't know. We send the bill. Hopefully, it gets paid. I can read a P&L, so I'm like intelligent enough to kind of do that. But like, I am not a detailed guy, and I am not a great like. It's not that I'm not a good people person, but I'm really bad at telling people like, hey, you did a good job. Hey, this is just for me. It's like, yeah, you get a paycheck, and so like,
there's your gratification.
Right. Yeah, and that's awful as a business owner. So like, finding people that fill in where you're bad, and so like Ben is really good at details, you know, and his wife Chelsea is a CFO, and so she's done some work with like our accounting and QuickBooks and stuff, and so and my wife is very people oriented, like big heart, and so I'll lean on her to be like, hey, you know, I don't really want to do stuff for people's birthdays. Should we? Do we? Does that make sense? When do we do it? You know, that kind of stuff. And so, like, yeah, being honest, I think just tracking yourself again, your priorities, and then secondly, like, what are you bad at? And yeah. Have someone that's
one of the things that I just had Amy Nunn on my podcast. She's a leadership coach, and you know, because it's sometimes it's easy to say, well, it's not my personality, and I'm not good at that. So then, she was talking about how like the real. I don't know if you're familiar with like the choleric personality or the driven, the high D, the dominant one.
Sure.
They're like very task oriented, and they're just like, hey, I need this done, you know. But you got another lady comes in, your employee, that is more relationship oriented, and she's like, hey, how was your day? And he's like, I don't care about your day. I want such done. And that guy thinks what she was making the point is the very goal that he wants is her to be motivated.
Yeah.
By taking a little bit of time out and actually caring about the person's day and entertaining like her talking about her day or whatever makes her more energetic and more enthusiastic about working for you, and will work harder and in turn give you the very results that you want. But sometimes we don't do that. I think that's why, like, you know, no one understands personalities and stuff like that help out. But
we use predictive index, which is a great personality tool. I kind of think they're all the same.
Yeah, they are.
But they're all kind of like translations. And
they just got different names.
They have different names, and I think they all, like, you have to learn how to read them. So, like, that's why I call them all different translations. Like, I know predictive index. So, like, I know when someone comes across what I can expect from their personality. And also, we do, like, across our management team, they've all taken it. And so we can see where we're weakest at, which is nice, is we try to overcompensate for those weaknesses. So like for us, people is a big thing. So like we do a big quarterly kickoff. We have clients come in and talk about like what they think of us. I hate the whole process, to be honest with you. I'm like, this is 3 hours that we're not billing people. What are we doing here? But everyone talks about, like, one of their favorite things that they do is like our nonprofit events that we do in the quarterly kickoff. And it's like, all right, well, it matters. It may not matter to me. And you have to swallow your pride a little bit too, of like, come on, 3 hours to give badges is nothing. Like, just do it. But I think as a business owner, you are always focused on profit, P&L, you know, all that stuff. Right. And you're like, I worry about it because of you. I worry about it because I want to make sure you get a paycheck. You know?
That's one of the things she says is it should never be processed over people. And I think about Jesus, how, like, I think we mentioned that last time. It's like he would just get interrupted, like right in the middle of doing something, you know, and like he'd stop. And it's just like amazing.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah, and we can even get frustrated. I'm writing a sermon right now, actually, for a couple weeks from now, and like we can even get frustrated when our time with Jesus gets interrupted. And like, how silly is that? Right. You know, like part of my sermon, I tell a story. So I'm like, when I wake up in the morning, my brain's on. So like, if I wake up at 6:45, I'm at work by 7:15. Like, you know, I'm just like, I have to go. And I tell a story about like one of my challenges was I was going to slow down in the mornings. That was what I was going to do. And so like, I remember getting my Bible out, and like, you know, I was gonna lock in for a minute, and kids come running down the stairs, and like, you know, my daughter peed her pants, like all these things happen that I'm like, and I was so frustrated, you know, so overwhelmed. And you think about like, how silly is that, you know, to not like invite Jesus into the chaos, but instead to kind of sit there and just be like, oh, I'm angry that I didn't get my time with God. And it's like, look at these amazing kids that God gave me, and in that moment.
You just need to wake up earlier, man.
Exactly. That's the answer for like everything. Like, why don't you work out more? Well, just wake up earlier. It's like, all right, why don't you do this? Just wake up earlier. Like, all right, well, I went to bed at 8 and I'm up at 1 a.m. We're ready to go. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's tough though as a business owner. Is like, you don't ever finish a week. Like it's Friday right now,
Yep.
and we talked about that. Like there is a million things that did not get done this week, and it took a while for me to like be okay with that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That like every email does not need 2-second response. Like there are things that can wait. And like where are you getting to? You know, like what do you really, if you put in that extra 4 hours, what do you really get out of that? There's times when it's like we're on a dev push and like the extra 4 hours means we get it done, but like you got to have those run rest cycles for sure.
Yeah.
Seasons.
It's kind of like the idea of focusing on the big rocks, you know, and then, you know, if the
little sand and marbles. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the Stephen Covey principle. Like a lot of times people think the smaller things, they make more urgent than they need to be sometimes. Not like you said, there's time and a place.
Yeah.
But it's like you get so caught up in the smaller things that you put in the urgent box when really they're not urgent.
For sure. And so we just hired, really, we're finalizing our leadership team, which is a new change in our business. Because like it was just, you know, me and Ben. Now it's a team, and now everyone has urgencies. And it's been an interesting like season to run through, because like, all right, the finance team has urgencies that they want done, the sales team has things that they want done, the ops team has things that they want done, and I can't solve all of them, so they have to do it by themselves. And that's been just an interesting thing to like walk through. We haven't figured it out by any means, but now everyone, and it's great to have people that are bought in. That's a big change, whereas like when you just have kind of end user people, like they're not as bought in as leaders who like their bonuses are based on, you know, EBITDA and all this other stuff, so they're bought into it. But yeah, that's been such a weird change of like they have their own things that are critical for them, which may or may not actually align with like what you want done too. So it's been interesting.
And you're the boss looking at it like, look at all these fires, man. Yeah. Here's the extinguisher, and teach them how to put it out.
You have 400 customers. Like the reality is there's always gonna be someone that's not super perfectly happy, you know, and our goal is always everyone's happy, but like the reality is 400 relationships like that are all want their own time and their own everything. And so it's tough for sure.
400 most important customers, 400
VIPs for sure.
That's right. Yes, sir.
So I'd be curious, we're all Christians, as you can tell on here, and I you know, love it when we go in that direction. A lot of times, I'd be curious to you're going to or have you graduated theological school?
I graduated from Liberty University with a master's in Christian ministry. Yeah,
that's awesome. I'm curious, how has your faith played a role in your company? Like how, you know?
Man, So when I started Single Wave, I was not going to church, did not have a relationship with God. So like I took the leap. A big thing for me, my dad got diagnosed with cancer before we started Single Wave, and with liver cancer. And he had been retired for like 30 days and found out that he had liver cancer. Man. And this was such like a truly like light shining through. And he'll tell you he's not retired because he still works as a financial, but whatever. He retired. He retired from the big gig. And it was just this thing of like, man, I could not live with myself looking back and have not made this leap, you know, got to the end of my career and not have at least tried. Worst case, business fails, I jump right back on and get a job, you know, whatever. But all to say, like I started that, we had my daughter Ella in that's awful, May. And so like we started business August, Ella is in May. My dad had found all that stuff out a little bit before that in March, and like these things had kept happening. And Sarah had like some awful postpartum depression with Ella, and it kind of rocked our world. I mean, it rocked our marriage. Like we truly were at just a rock bottom of life. And so luckily, like I grew up Catholic, and luckily I had that faith foundation of knowing like, all right, we've got to get to something different. We tried re-engaging in the Catholic Church. Like nothing felt right. It wasn't working. We didn't even remember, like we'd be driving home from church and be like, what did we talk about today? I mean, it was just like, we were checking the box, but nothing was happening. And God was still pursuing us, which was amazing. And like, because of that, we said, all right, let's try something different. We reached out to 2 friends at Grace River and showed up. And I mean, to say the rest is history a little bit, but like that moved us in faith. And then we had this business that was still growing, and like at that point, kind of right on the tipping point of taking off in a lot of ways. And so it made me rethink everything, honestly. I mean, it made me think about business in a completely different way, of having that relationship. And it's hard to even like put into words, but how you think of people, how you think of a business and its purpose, I think as a Christian changes. Just like, it can't be selfish. It has to be, what are you doing for others? What are you building that actually is gonna last? And so, yeah, it is a huge change.
Yeah, I mean, imagine, sure. I know for me as a believer, it's like, I don't want to just do the business to make money anymore so much as I want to bring glory to God and all of it. And it's like,
but the bills are still due.
Right.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
So it's like, I was telling Dylan on this last conversation we had, I have a really good friend named Matt Lohman. He was a pastor at City Light, but he made this great point about how so often we do, our motives are, if I do this or I have this or whatever, I'll be happy. Or we do things out of, we're trying to earn God's approval or earn, whatever it is. And he made this statement that is just like resounds in my head all the time, but we don't work for grace, but from grace. We don't work for love, but because God loves us. And out of that, we get to do all the works. And so he was saying, you could go to church, for example, in faith with the right motives, and you could be doing the same thing as somebody that's going the church out of faith with completely different motives. And,
for sure.
One is in faith and one isn't. And it's like, you could be running a business in faith with the right motives, with the right heart, doing the same things you were doing, but with a totally different view and mindset and motives and desires.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, so important. I think the point, like the most important point there is like, you cannot run a good enough business to be accepted by Christ, right? Or to have you can't. It doesn't matter if you're a nonprofit that's giving every penny away, because it's a gift, because grace is a gift. And if you start from that point, it's not about what you do. It's not like, none of us will run good enough businesses that it's like, God's like, oh man, now they did it. I was just waiting for that moment. They did it. They gave enough money away. They hit the 70%. Like, all right, put his name on the list. Right? That's not
the book of life now. Right.
Yeah, that's not it.
It's crazy because, like he said, it's like, in Ephesians it says, Paul's praying, he's like, I want you to know the depth of love, how deep, how wide, and the blessings. Ephesians 1 talks about all the blessings that he gives us in Christ, and they're already there.
They're there.
So we don't have to work for any of that. It's like, it's there.
Yeah.
But we get to work out of a place.
Exactly. And he talks about the hardest times in his life and the easiest times in his life and how all of them were with God, and like he always had enough to eat. He always had somewhere to sleep, like later on in that same verses that you're talking through. And so it's like, and I think ourselves, we think about that of like, there will be good times in business. There will be times that like
trials,
your team has to get smaller, or, you have to fire a customer, like things happen. But how do you do that from a place of of God, a place in his image, exactly, rather than just kind of we're doing the best we can, and that can be tough for sure.
Because ultimately, if your satisfaction is in all the outcomes of life or the business P&L. Or circumstances, then your joy or happiness is circumstantial. Or joy, or you don't have purpose because your identity is in that and not in God.
Absolutely. Yeah, and we can all think of business owners, I think, that are like, if their business is doing well, they're the happiest people ever. Their business isn't doing well, you're like, hey, I haven't seen you around. That's the way they live life. And if you find your purpose in business, and I think that's even true in our families. If you only find your purpose in your family, like your family's gonna have bad, tough times.
That's right.
I mean, your family's going to your kids will get mad at you. You will have to tell them no and be a dad, or a mom or whatever. And so you can't put it all there. You have to put it in God and that rock, or else you're lost. You're just not gonna, it's too wavering. Reality is everything else is gonna have ups and downs.
Yeah.
But I love that. I love Paul and Ephesians. That's perfect.
Yeah, it's great. He was Matt was preaching from Colossians, and it was kind of the idea that he was talking about how there was some people that were coming in to the church at the time that were bringing in a lot of legalism and trying to earn God's approval from following
works,
the works and the commandments. But then there was this other side that was like, oh, it's all about experiences and spirituality, the Gnosticism and stuff like that. Sure. And Paul's kind of redirecting both of them, saying, no, you're missing it. It's Jesus.
Yeah.
And when you're
Jesus and
satisfied in Jesus,
Yeah.
then he gave a great analogy, but it's kind of like, you know, if you just ate Chick-fil-A and you're driving down, you know, past Taco Bell or whatever it is, like you're not going to have any desire for Taco Bell because you've been completely satisfied. And you know, you were, so it was like a good analogy, but I really like it.
Yeah, and I'd go to even the life of Jesus, like Luke 15, talking about Mary and Martha. You know, you got Jesus comes to the house of Martha, and like Martha's cleaning, and she's you know, like so busy making sure everything's perfect, doing all this stuff. Whereas like Mary's just spending time with Jesus,
enjoying the moment,
and that difference of like, yes, like invite him into the chaos, but spend time with him, spend time with God. Like don't be too lost in all of the business stuff to forget like he gave you all of this and he can take it away tomorrow. So like there's no sense of getting stuck in that extra hour that, you know, you're putting in. Like make sure it's worth it, or otherwise you're just like Martha cleaning the house, you know, not actually spending time with him and continuing, you know, on that. So
that's a great point, dude.
Yeah, I think one thing they say, we've had lunch, we've talked about this before, but one thing I love about your story and what you've hit on is starting the business kind of without the faith aspect to now, you know, and what do you think has been the biggest polarizing thing as far as the fruits of the payoff, so to speak?
Oh man, I mean the biggest, like, yeah, that's tough. I mean, it's always interesting. I think in business, like I have a bunch of, and I think most people should. I have different communities. I have like church friends, you know, you guys. I've got work friends that I work with, and like I've got friends that don't go to church and work, and it's been interesting to see those like merge together. And I've gotten a little bit more protective of that, but like they have merged together. So like, you know, we've done some work with Radiance, so doing some great videos like for our website, which is awesome. And then like Alex Misi and some other people like both go to church and are at work. There's some people that I work with that now have gone to Grace River, and so like that's been cool to see. But it's also really scary when those worlds combine, because like I talked a lot at church about like I have a dream of planning a church, right? And that's hard as a leader, because they're like, well, what about us?
You're gonna be here in 5 years?
You're not going to be here. What are you going to do? You know? And so for those that exist at the same time, like that's been the most difficult part, I would say, of all of it, is those things existing at the same time. And like, you know, you don't plant a church overnight. I mean, I'm very new to the faith. I mean, I'm still new to like learning, and I'm an absorber. So like I went and got my master's, and like I'm trying to absorb this information, just like we talked about. You got to find you got to become a student of the game. Why are churches successful? Why are they not successful? Like take a ton of that information in. I love studying that stuff, but like, but yeah, it makes it difficult to live. It can feel like I'm living 2 or 3 lives at a time. Like I've got my family, where I'm telling like my wife, oh, I want to do this. Like we're moving houses, we're having a baby. Yeah, bro. Yeah, we just bought land. Like we're moving out to, and eventually, like I want to plant a church in Troy, Winsville, like out that way. And so like we're slowly, like we bought land out there. We're, you know, we're praying it. But obviously, like the business just got to a point where like, you know, we're not like, we're doing well, and like we're actually saving money. So she's like, why? Like there's nothing logical about starting a church. It's like the most illogical thing I could do, right? But when you have that call from God, and you feel
I was going to say, like that's like, oftentimes I feel like the best, because people that like are like just thrilled, like it's something like I'm so excited, versus it being like a real calling. I'm always nervous about the person, like because you know, like you know, starting a church or whatever, like being a pastor, it's one of probably the most grueling, like stressful,
for sure.
Like I guess what I'm saying, not something that's super desirable if you really know what's involved.
That's right.
And so when you feel like really called, like I feel like those are the type of people that are like,
for sure.
It's kind of like George Washington, where he was like, I don't want to be president, but like he was the best.
If you're not a little nervous about it, it's probably not the right thing for you, right? Or you just don't. Like, I'll be honest, when I started, I was really excited. And I think initially it's like, oh, the stage is cool. And they're like, oh, he knows all these people. And like, I mean, granted, like pastors at the beginning, you're like, they only work 1 day a week, maybe 2 days.
Sure, it's all the time.
Right? You're like, that's great. But yeah, similar, I think, to as you get closer to Jesus, the more you realize it's broken in yourself. I think the closer you get to your calling, the more you realize like how much you have to give up to actually live that. You know what I mean? And yeah, I live in a world where right now we work with private equity where like Rolex is in the room. Everybody drives a G-Wagon, you know, like it's all about how you look and everything.
Yep.
To, you know, church that is the exact opposite. And yeah, I definitely feel that like those worlds collide. It's so weird going from like a private equity meeting to like last night we were bowling with students. You know what I mean? And like that's tough, man. My mind like goes fast transitions. It's tough, yeah. To turn that off and turn the business off. And yeah, so it can be tough for sure. Yeah.
That's real. That's a raw answer. That's a good answer, man. That's real. Awesome.
It's tough.
Yeah, man. There was something that we were just talking about a minute, two ago, that I was listening to Francis Chan on a podcast recently. He was on the Craze podcast, and he was like early on in his years, he was like, man, I look back at myself, and he's like, man, I was like the guy that I wanted to be like, do all these great things for God, and I was just like, you know, I want to be the Elijah, and I want to be like Moses.
Yeah.
And,
Sure.
and he's like, ultimately, now he's in a place, and he's like, he's sharing with other pastors, but like just knowing like that Ephesians 1, like just knowing the depth of his love and God's love for him. He's like, man, I used to think that John was like a little cocky when he'd be like the disciple that Jesus loved or whatever.
Yeah,
The beloved.
But I think he was making the point. I think John was like, he understood like the point with Mary and Martha, like Mary was just soaking it all in and resting in him and just knowing. And he said there's this business owner that he's part of his leadership, and he said in business you typically will like if somebody's he got to Romans chapter 8 where it says there's no condemnation in Christ Jesus, and he was teaching, and he said, this guy said, I almost felt like I didn't want to tell people that because like as a business owner, if you tell somebody something they're doing wrong, especially a driven person, they're going to be like, oh, I'll show, like, I'll prove it. I'll show you.
Right.
They'll turn up the volume of like their performance.
Yeah.
And he's like, if I tell people there's no condemnation, you know, like they're not going to be like,
There's a hustle. They're not going to.
yeah, they're not going to be as active and follow Christ, you know, whatever.
Sure.
And Francis Chan was just making that point. He's like, no, like we get to do all these things. Going back to that point is like, because we're loved and God loves us and cares about us. And I don't know, it's just a different mindset.
For sure. I think it's so easy too. I mean, I love, you know, there's a bunch of different books, but like, I'm trying to think of the name of the book, but it doesn't matter. Basically, it talks about like, we do put like Moses and some of these people in the Bible like on a pedestal where like there may only be one or two stories in the whole Bible about this person. Like you don't know anything about their life outside of Jesus. Like we know a little bit about these people, but they made one or two like just impactful decisions that were so impactful that changed the history of the world. Like God used them in that way, you know. And I think we put that level on every decision we make, you know. And it's like it's not, you know, as business owners. I mean, I know I have friends that own businesses that like something happened to a family member at one of their, you know, businesses, and like they covered that person's salary for a year and all kinds of great stories and stuff like that. And it's like, but even that's not good enough for them. But think about the impact that had on their family. And like the way that some of those things can really blossom. It's more than just like how are our KPIs, you know, measured, or like should I be tough on people or not tough on people. It's like, yeah, you have to, if you care about people, you're gonna be tough on them. You're gonna push them. You're gonna want the best because you can see what they're capable of. And that's what I mean. Jesus, perfect example, like could see through what people were capable of, looked past the disabilities or the problems or the virtues or whatever it may be, and saw what they were capable of, you know, and just brought that out of them. And I think that's what we're called to do as business leaders.
Yeah, such a good point about the Moses thing. But you think about Abraham, like he was called the father of faith.
Yeah,
but yet like
some Bathsheba issues.
He threw his wife under the bus, like, and was like
not once but twice.
Yeah, and then the whole
laughed at the idea of having kids.
He ended up deciding to have his maidservant sleep and then had Ishmael, which wasn't part of the promise. But God used, uses broken people to accomplish his playing. And we all have those places we're not proud of and things that we've done and whatever.
Absolutely, yeah. We're all broken. There's only one perfect person that's ever lived, and it's Jesus.
Yeah.
And so to hold yourself to that standard is not fair for you. You know, it just doesn't make any sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think this is a great conversation. I think, you know, we could wrap it up by, I think a big thing is that the idea of business, like I know you can do things and be successful in life, but you know, just like in any area of your life, you don't have like true hope in Christ and hope in eternity and hope and like, it's really, I don't know where you go as far as having like true ultimate joy in life. And ultimately, I think that really stems in every aspect of your life when you can really trust and rest in him. I mean, I know there's people that would say they're happy or whatever. That's great. But like, I just don't see how you truly have real joy without it.
For sure.
So,
Yeah.
1,000%.
Yeah, man. So is there any like closing thoughts that you'd want to share with us?
Yeah.
Talk about business and all that stuff.
I mean, I think the big thing, like, again, no matter what you're jumping into, like, you know, you're going to be nervous. Like we said, if you're not nervous, you're probably not doing the right thing. And like, take the risk and step back. And I think, again, I'm a huge Gary Vee fan. I love Gary Vee. Like, his mouth gets a little wild sometimes, but I love Gary Vee because he tells people, like, you're 20, you're 50. I mean, especially with the students and like younger people that might watch this, like, you have 3 generations to live. Who cares if it fails? Why are you so worried? Like, people are so scared of failure that they never take the first step. And it's like, take the step. I've seen, I mean, like, bankrupt, plenty of, very few, like, incredibly successful people that haven't hit rock bottom, right? Sure. And so don't be afraid to do that. Don't be afraid to keep people, hold to a high accountability. But I think, the big thing is just, like, take the leap and be honest of, you can always go get a job. You can always go do something else. You know, there's more houses out there. Like, you're going to figure it out as long as you keep pushing forward. And even in your faith, like, be honest with yourself. And there's going to be times that you're like, God, this next step is scary. I don't know if I want to take it. I don't know if I want to do it. And I think that in the same way, like, what do you have to lose? You know, and when God lights the path, like, he's gonna make it happen. And so just have trust in that.
That's real, man.
Love that. Mic drop. Fail your way to success.
I love it.
You got any?
Fell up, baby.
You got anything to add?
Nah, I think that he killed it, man. How do you top that? That's it. Fail up.
Well, John, thank you so much for jumping on here with us. Is there any handles, social medias, anything like that people can get in touch with you guys if they're wanting? Yeah,
LinkedIn's the biggest. I mean, we have a Facebook page as well, but LinkedIn, Single Wave Tech, or just my LinkedIn, Jonathan Tock. Either way,
And website, singlewave.com.
www.singlewave.tech.
Yeah, so if you're a company out there looking for an awesome IT company to help you out with all that jazz, John's your man. You can see he's a high character, high integrity, really wants to take care of his people, but also clients. Absolutely. So that's the type of business that you want. So thank you so much for jumping on. We really appreciate it. We'll have to have you back on pretty soon.
Let me know.
Sure, man.
Appreciate it, guys.
Guys, if you like this content, please like, subscribe, share. It'd be an honor for us for you to do that. We want to provide valuable information that can just help you guys in all areas of life. And so hopefully this content that you listened to today brought value to you. And we'd love it if you like, subscribe, and share. So have a great day. God bless.